After a grueling day at work, I finally made it home. It was one of those days where the sun rose and set while I was still at my desk, buried in paperwork and responding to an endless stream of emails. My job, though fulfilling, can be quite the beast on days like these, draining me of my energy, my spirit, and even my smile. The city was abuzz with its usual cacophony of sounds as I wove my way through the labyrinth of streets, a symphony of horns, sirens, and bustling life. The world, it seemed, was still wide awake, even as my own eyes were heavy with sleep and exhaustion. I craved nothing more than the quietude of my own home, a sanctuary from the relentless demands of the outside world. The journey home was a blur, a montage of familiar sights and sounds that I navigated almost on autopilot. The same old coffee shop, the park with its ancient oak tree standing tall, the graffiti-covered walls of the underpass, each a silent marker on the path that led me home. The city lights flickered like distant stars, guiding me through the urban wilderness to the haven that was my doorstep. As I neared my house, I could see the soft glow of the porch light, a beacon in the night. It was a sight for sore eyes, the promise of tranquility and solitude. The silhouette of my home, standing tall against the indigo sky, was the most welcome sight of all. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, pushing away the remnants of my tiring day. The scent of the blooming jasmine by my front door greeted me, a familiar and comforting presence. I fumbled in my bag for my keys, my fingers brushing against the cold metallic surface. The rustling of leaves in the wind was the only sound that accompanied my actions, a quiet lullaby for my weary spirit. I reached for my keys, eager to step into the comfort of my own space. Little did I know, the night had other plans that would shatter the tranquility I so desperately sought. But that's a story for another scene. Unlocking the door, I stepped into the quiet darkness of my home. The familiar scent of lavender and pine greeted me, the scent of home, comfort, and solitude. My footsteps echoed softly against the wooden floors, a testament to the silence that enveloped the house. The day's exhaustion weighed heavy on my shoulders, and I longed for the comfort of my worn-out armchair and the warm glow of the table lamp. I kicked off my shoes, the clatter of heels on the floor a stark contrast to the eerie silence. The kitchen, the heart of my home, lay shrouded in darkness. I made my way towards it, navigating the familiar terrain with ease. The countertop, the old wooden table, the row of spice jars, all familiar, all comforting. My hand grazed the cool marble of the counter as I moved towards the light switch. The anticipation of the room being bathed in warm light was almost palpable. The quiet hum of the refrigerator was my only companion. The darkness seemed to deepen, the shadows growing longer and more menacing. The silence was almost deafening, the stillness unnerving. A chill ran down my spine, a premonition of something unnatural, something out of place. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as an icy dread filled my veins. I shook off the feeling, attributing it to the fatigue and the late hour. My fingers brushed against the wall, searching for the familiar plastic switch. I could almost feel the comforting glow of the kitchen lights, the shadows retreating to their corners. The tension in my shoulders began to ease, a sigh of relief ready to escape my lips. But then, a shock of cold ran through my fingertips. The smooth plastic of the switch was not what I felt. Instead, it was another hand, cold, clammy, and undeniably there. The breath hitched in my throat, my heart pounding like a drum against my chest. I reached for the light switch, but another hand was already there. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. My mind was a whirlwind, caught in a maelstrom of fear and confusion. A cold shiver trickled down my spine, a chilling reminder of the unwelcome guest that lurked in the shadows of my home. The eerie silence was punctuated only by the erratic rhythm of my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The situation felt surreal, like a chilling scene ripped straight out of a horror movie. I found myself questioning my sanity. Could exhaustion have painted this macabre tableau? Or was there truly an unseen intruder, as tangible and real as the fear gnawing at my core? Thoughts raced through my mind, each more terrifying than the last. The rational part of me tried to dismiss this as a figment of an overworked imagination. But the hand, it had felt so real, cold and solid against my own. My breath hitched as I considered the possibility that I wasn't alone. Every creak of the house, every whisper of the wind seemed to confirm my worst fears. I felt a prickling sensation at the back of my neck, a primal instinct warning me of danger. The familiar walls of my home now seemed to close in, a sinister labyrinth harboring an unknown menace. In the face of this chilling realization, I knew I couldn't succumb to fear. I had to be brave, had to investigate. If there truly was someone or something in my house, I couldn't just hide. The thought of the intruder lurking in the shadows watching me was far more terrifying than confronting it. I swallowed hard, gathering my courage. My hand trembled as I reached out to arm myself with the nearest object, a heavy, ornamental paperweight. I steeled myself, ready to face the unknown. The echo of my own voice seemed alien as I called out, "Who's there?" The words hung heavily in the air, a challenge to the unseen intruder. I had to find out who or what was in my house. Summoning every bit of courage, I decided to confront the intruder. The decision wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions in my own home, my sanctuary. With every step I took, my heart pounded like a drum, the rhythm echoing the tension in the air. Each creak of the floorboard under my feet seemed to shout out my location, but I pushed on, driven by a determination I didn't know I possessed. My senses were heightened in the shadow-filled silence, every tiny noise magnified, every shift of shadow a potential threat. I moved through my house, my mind playing out 100 different scenarios. What if the intruder was dangerous? What if they had a weapon? But I brushed these thoughts aside. This was my home, my domain, and I wouldn't be made a stranger in it. I stopped at every room, pausing at the thresholds, listening for any signs of movement. The usual comforting familiarity of my home was replaced with a foreboding uncertainty, yet my resolve was steel. I wouldn't let fear dominate me. As I ventured deeper into the house, I could feel the air growing colder, the shadows lengthening. All the while, my senses were on high alert. I could hear the faintest rustle of fabric, the softest whisper of breath. I was ready to face whatever lurked in the shadows. The journey through my home felt like an eternity, every corner a new challenge, every room a potential battlefield. But I kept going, driven by a force greater than my fear, my determination to reclaim my home. As I reached the heart of my house, the silence was almost deafening. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath hitched in my throat. The tension was palpable, the anticipation heavy in the air, but I wasn't about to back down. I was ready for whatever was waiting in the darkness. I steeled myself, ready to face the unknown, ready to confront my fear. This was my home, and I would defend it no matter what. Then, in a moment of heart-stopping revelation, I found out the truth. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, as if the very air I breathed had turned to ice. The hand was not a stranger's, but my own reflection mirrored in the polished brass of the light switch plate. A shiver of fear gave way to a flood of relief, but then, quickly, to confusion. Was I losing my mind? Or was there something more sinister at play? I was alone, yet the feeling of another's presence lingered, as tangible as the switch under my fingertips. I searched my home, every nook and cranny, every shadowy corner. Nothing. No one. Yet the oppressive sensation of being watched, of being not alone, remained. I could almost hear the soft whisper of another's breath, feel the prickling sensation of unseen eyes on my skin. In a surge of defiance, I confronted the nothingness. I shouted into the empty spaces, challenged the unseen to show itself. I demanded answers, demanded peace. But the only answer was silence, a silence so profound it echoed in my ears and settled heavy in my chest. I was alone, truly alone, but the terror of that night had left its mark. It was as if I could still feel the phantom touch, the ghostly hand on the light switch. My own hand, yet not my own. A chilling reminder of the fear that now lived within the walls of my home. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I continued to live in my home, but it was different. I was different. The fear had changed me, shaped me into someone new, someone who jumped at shadows, who saw danger in every corner, who heard whispers in the silence. And so, life went on. I learned to live with the fear, with the echoes of that night. I learned to cope, to survive. But I was never truly alone. The memory of the phantom hand lingered, a constant reminder of the terror that had once gripped me. In the end, I was left alone in my home once again, but the echoes of that night's terror still lingered. Y'all, we're wrapping up here, but don't you go anywhere just yet. Show some love, hit that like button. Fancy more content like this? Go on, subscribe and let that bell icon ring so you won't miss a beat. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next time, stay tuned.